Hello. Today I'll show you how I transform my living room and kitchen from its previous state to this. If you're interested, stick around and share your thoughts in the comments. The first thing is to fix all the structural problems that my house had. For instance, a broken pipe caused a humidity issue that I failed to investigate on the terrace. The pipe was releasing water and started to make a hole, let's say, in that place, until it really did, literally. So I spent the whole day chipping away at the floor with a 5-kilo mallet until I could see where the broken pipe was and remove it directly. I cut it entirely and replaced it with a new one. I glued it with a polyvinyl chloride adhesive, and it stayed there firmly. Choose a mallet that you can work with comfortably, or else you won't be able to complete the task properly. So don't always try to go for the heaviest one, which obviously is going to be what you'll do the job with the fastest. Anyway, once you've done all the work, this one of chopping and fixing where the pipe is and checking that it doesn't have any leaks, I put a little piece of cardboard so that the cement doesn't go down, obviously to the floor below. And then I started to put these same pieces of stone that I had chopped, piece of cement, piece of tile or whatever. I started to put it there in the hole that I had left to try to fill a bit and use the least amount of cement possible. Otherwise, it's already an expense. I also have to apologize because the camera light ran out of battery just as I was doing this. And, well, you can't see everything I did clearly, but I wanted to do it as quickly as possible. Because imagine if it rained, all the water was going to go straight to the living room. So I wanted to try to dispatch it as soon as possible. The cement mix was a 50-50 mix of cement and sand. Maybe you can add more sand, depending, but well, I think it turned out fine. I don't do these jobs very often, but it turned out quite well. You have to apply the cement until it more or less penetrates everything. And then with a smooth trowel, you start flattening it well. The better you handle the trowel and the better you flatten it, the less sanding you'll have to do later to make it smooth. But well, the trowel is not an easy job, so as long as everything is more or less smooth, it's perfect. Then they sand it and it looks the same. Great. Try to sand as little as possible because sandpaper on cement, I use 80 grit sandpaper with an orbital sander. But it releases a lot of dust. As you see in the video, I had to give it a hand. Nothing more, but it releases a lot of dust. Also, another thing I want to emphasize is that I didn't wait for the cement to dry completely, even though it's still a little wet. This is not ideal. But I wanted to do it now because I had to apply the membrane, which is what I'm applying now, which is a liquid membrane. A paint in the form of a membrane that prevents water from passing through. Because it was going to rain the next day, and I had to apply this already, otherwise the cement would have started getting damp and the water would start seeping down again. Don't worry if the color seems to have nothing to do with the color it was before, because later the membrane, when it dries, becomes much more opaque. You can paint the entire floor to maintain a consistent color, but it will be costly due to the amount of paint needed. And I don't think it's justified for a space like the terrace where the floor doesn't matter much. Once this was done, I started to review the other big tasks I wanted to do in my house. One task was removing the old obstructive railing. I don't even know why it was there, being able to put a railing on the side of the wall, so I just set out to remove it. Since it was very large, I had to cut it completely. I wasn't going to reuse it. So I cut it in half and then cut where it was anchored to the original structure of the railing. And then it came out directly by inertia. I was able to dismantle it completely, and I more or less arranged the furniture there. And I put some plants to act as an artificial railing, so to speak, to give a separation between where the stairs end and where the living room begins, so to speak. Another large, unsightly thing was left behind. It's this piece of furniture, these two shelves that I have, my tools in the living room, because more than my living room, it's also like my workshop, so to speak. So I wanted to make them more presentable, especially for people who come over and such, so they're not so visible. So the first thing I did was to join the two of them and then take a rough measurement. How much wood would I need to make some doors? I decided to make 4 doors that both open inward and look like a more discreet piece of furniture. I didn't have to cut these directly. I went to buy them at a wood store and they gave them to me cut to the size I needed. And then I put 2 of these hinges on each door so that it opens and closes well. These are the best for making furniture. They are easy to apply, malleable, and configurable. You can adjust the screws slightly after screwing them in. They have screws that let you move them closer or further. Give them a little movement so that the door fits well afterwards, once you've screwed it in, let's say. Then, on the edges, I put, an edge banding like a white one, that there was exactly one of the same design as the wood I bought. This is applied with an iron, but I didn't have one, so I had to apply it with a heat gun and rubbing it with a cloth. As you can see, my house was a mess while I was doing this. I had accumulated many things over a long time. This involved decluttering and organizing my belongings as I couldn't deal with the mess any longer. And I started to make one of these bars for my kitchen, let's say one of these breakfast bars, and I chose one of these industrial designs. I don't know the name, but these that are made with iron, which is my forte, let's say. And it matched a lot with the table that I had also bought and chosen, so I just did it. A structure with a 35 millimeter square pipe. It was a rectangle 1 meter high and I think 40 centimeters wide. Easy, they are a couple of welded pipes, nothing more than after. I chose the welds so that everything is smooth and painted them white. So it was the same as the table I had bought, which was the same thickness and everything. And it made a kind of combination between the two. And for the board, I used a 3 centimeter thick eucalyptus wood, which are several woods glued together. And it looked very nice. I just put a bit of classic cetyl for protection, the one that has no color. It only enhances the wood color a bit and protects it. And it's a water-based varnish, so it's easier to make, and you don't have to use turpentine or anything directly. It's applied without diluent or anything on the wood. I gave it 2 coats after sanding it with a 220 grit sandpaper. For someone like me with limited carpentry experience and knowledge, it's not something I particularly enjoy. It's I think the easiest way to make a table or a bar or one of these modern pieces of furniture, which are actually very trendy and very easy to make. If you have some experience with a welder in that, so I recommend it in case you want to get into some furniture in your house. You want to do something, I recommend this way. On the wall side, I just put 2 50 hinges because it didn't make sense to make another one of these structures that I made on the other side. So I just made sure that the 2 squares were straight, let's say, and I placed the board directly on that and screwed them in so they wouldn't come out. And that's it. Once we've done this and made sure everything is straight, we put the board, screw everything in, and the rest is just add in a bit of decoration, let's say. I started to clean everything that was up in the air and put what was going to stay on the bar, which were mostly breakfast items and such and some other decorations. Not much more than that. And I wanted to add 2 hanging lamps, these with dichroic lamp, which look very good on a bar. So I put my laser resting in the center of the bar to mark well on the ceiling where the center was. And I made 2 holes on each side to have more or less 2 centered lamps. And once I had made them, I screwed them in. These are the lamps. They are common lamps. I think they were, one of the cheapest, which were white, which matched more or less with what I was doing. That's all. They take 2 screws to the ceiling, and then they are screwed in. For the bar stools, I wanted to put 2 stools. Although I'd never done this before, it was quite easy, and I had all the ingredients. I grabbed the pot. Don't worry, because it doesn't get ruined. Then you wash it, and you can still use it again, and you put it on a piece of wood. It's good that it's no longer useful to you. I had an old kitchen drawer that I wasn't going to reuse. Mark the outline, and then make 3 holes as if they were the 3 legs of the stool. Through those holes, they insert 3 wooden sticks that they can cut to whatever thickness they want. These sticks were from a broom, which were the thickest ones available. They are 3 centimeters thick, and I cut them to 70 centimeters. Then, at the tip more or less, they tie it so that it remains at whatever angle you want. Make it more open. Honestly, I made it a bit closed, and I should have made it a bit more open. But trial and error. I'll do it later. Others didn't turn out so bad either. I mixed in cement without sand. This is 100% cement. It's 5 kilos for each bench, which when converted to pesos is not a lot of money. I believe the 5 kilo bag is worth 100 pesos. And we put all the cement in the pot about 10 centimeters. The pot needs to have cement so that a small bench is formed. Cool. And then we put in the legs, trying not to touch the bottom, because if not, obviously when we take it out, it would show. And that's how it should look, so the legs don't move while the wood is drying. And once it dries, let 1 or 2 days pass, then take it out of the pot. If desired, you can add a bit of oil, but honestly, I didn't use anything, and it unmolded well. And that's how it turns out. It's a modern type of stool, let's say. I saw it on the internet, and it's quite easy to make, and it looks nice with the decoration. If I'm not convinced, I'll change it for something else. I wanted to have a bit more natural light or natural illumination in my house. So I made one of these fake windows. I did it with one of these old TVs that didn't work. A 32-inch liquid crystal display, which inside has a number of special polarizers and acrylics that diffuse the light very well and give a real artificial window effect. So what I did was replace them with LEDs and use them to make my fake window. This is something I can talk about in much more detail and make a much more explained tutorial. I'm briefly covering this topic now, but if you want more details, leave a comment and I'll create a dedicated video about it. But well, that's how it is. Depending on the quality of the LED you put in, it will be whiter or warmer. You will have a light that is more like daylight, let's say, or a cloudy day. I put in some that change color so I can have both in one. This color would be more or less the natural daylight. And now it would be on a cloudy day. Let's put it on. As you can see, it changes quite a bit. This one is, let's say, more believable. It looks more like a window, but well, I like the other one and I left the other one. You can actually put any color you want depending on the LED you put in. The kitchen floor has been broken for a long time because there used to be a plaster wall there that I removed because it was the most cumbersome thing in the world and it was left broken. What are we going to do? But well, the first thing I did was remove all the old plaster from the wall because it was all broken. It was no longer useful, and besides, it was starting to come off on its own, so it was all detached. What I did was lend a hand, speed up the process, so to speak, and simply remove it. I used the 5-kilo mallet, but any size works since it comes off easily on its own. And then I started to see how I could fix it, and well, the easiest thing was the wall. I simply bought new plaster, mixed it, and then replaced it. If you're going to work with plaster, put water and plaster in equal parts, and then stir it. Keep it stirred all the time. You'll notice the plaster begins to harden at a certain point. As soon as the cement starts to get hard, you work it as quickly as you can. Because cement hardens very quickly and stops being malleable very, very quickly. So as soon as it hardens, they put it on the trowel and then start applying it to the wall. I know I left the cable there. I should have run it through one of these mesh cable tubes in case I want to replace it in the future. But, well, I know I did it wrong. This is going to be a problem for the MII in a few years. And for the floor, I just grabbed some sheets and bent them there and nailed them to the floor with steel nails. It turned out very strong. I was thinking of sanding the sheet to make it look nicer, but I like this effect. Like rust, which is real rust, but I applied lacquer to prevent further rusting and make it shiny and nicer. Now onto the kitchen. As you can see, these doors are from the year of the flood. I really dislike them. Besides, they had besides a kind of ugly color and ugly varnish that is already getting old. And since the structure was fine, only the middle shelf was a bit bent, but the overall structure of the furniture was fine. I didn't want to change it. Besides, it was a lot of work that I didn't think was worth it. So I just measured all the doors and had the white one cut to the same size as those doors. And then I put the edges on with this edge banding that I had used before with the heat gun, which is a job because with the iron it's done in no time, and I have to do it like this. But well, once I had them all done, I started to screw them in. In the same place they were, I didn't have to measure anything because it was just putting them in the same place the others were, respecting the order more or less, measuring as needed. Otherwise, they wouldn't fit. But, well, when I had already done it, there was a kitchen as it looked a bit more renovated. And the parts that I couldn't remove and that were still from the old nail, I just painted it. Then I put one of these little jars, which is a good idea. You take off the lid and screw it on, and they look quite decorative, quite nice. So I don't know, I thought it was nice to put it. Another thing I wanted to do was change the old kitchen tiles. These tiles were horrible. Honestly, I didn't like them much. They had an old design. I wanted to use one of the modern tiles, which are like subway style, which are white and are placed staggered like a brick wall. For this, I cleaned the old tiles well with an ammonia-based cleaner. It turned out well with significant changes already from being clean, but I did this for a reason. I was going to stick the new tiles on top. You guys are going to say, what are you doing? This can't be done. You have to remove them and put them back on. But isn't there a glue that is precisely for this? To put new tiles over the old one? It's made especially for this, and it works perfectly for this. It's used to stick floors on floors or bathroom tiles on bathroom tiles, etc. You have to add water and then add this material until it becomes a thick paste. There isn't a specified measurement, but, well, that's how it's done. Then with a notch trowel, I used a 1/2 centimeter by 1/2 centimeter notch trowel. They spread it over the old tiles and leave a 5 by 5 millimeter groove. And they start laying the ceramics one by one, placing the spacers and hitting them with one of these rubber hammers. Don't hit it with a normal hammer because you can break them, but well, you have to place them one by one and hit them every time you put them down. The groove should go upwards as the top is the smallest part of our slab. The groove always goes to the smallest part of the slab. Since the slab is less than 40 by 40, we just have to put glue on the wall. Otherwise, we would have to put glue on both sides. And if you need to cut it, which obviously you're going to need to cut for the ends, you have to do it with a smooth diamond disc, because if not, you're going to scratch them or break them when you're cutting. The glue says it dries in 12 hours, but after 1 or 2 hours of having done it, you're going to see how it starts to dry a little bit. And I had already removed the spacers anyway. It wasn't going to move, and I needed to remove them to get rid of the excess that had remained between the grooves. I simply removed this with my finger, and once you have removed everything, you will start to wash them. They were full of dust, and I started to wash them with water, first with a cloth and then pouring water on them. And then I used one of these steam cleaners on it. But I can't recommend any. I think the best way is to take a cloth, soak it in a lot of water, and gently wipe it over the tiles. Keep in mind that you have to make a gentle movement, because if you press them too hard, they will move or they can slide or something, and that's how they should stay. Honestly, I think it turned out quite well. I'm pretty satisfied with how it turned out for my first job of this kind. And after 24 hours, you have to apply a joint sealer so that dirt doesn't get in between the tiles. And finishing up with the last details like the door handles and some decoration or something I put over there. This is how my house was before. I didn't make a general filming before starting this project, so I'm showing some clips from other old videos. For example, the living room, kitchen, or these from when I was making my surfboard. The living room's layout, furniture, and arrangement are visible, although in reality there was only a couch and a small table. This is the current setup. As you can see, the furniture I bought were only the chair and the tables. I did everything myself, and it turned out great. I gained a lot of space. Before it felt cramped, but now it's a more spacious environment. I got rid of a lot of things. I tidied up everything that was left. There are still tasks left, such as changing the entire floor. However, this would require removing and replacing everything, including all the items in the room. And such was the hole that had been left in the ceiling that I have to wait for the humidity to go away to fill it again with plaster and insulation and everything it has. And some other thing that I have left half hanging, but we'll leave that for another video. For instance, I want to organize and tidy up the patio. Currently, I have the van, the carting, and various items scattered there. So I hope you subscribe and stay tuned for that next video, which I'll probably make. If you enjoyed the video, remember to like it and share your thoughts for future content. Thanks for watching. Bye.